At the beginning of the program tonight, I raised the question about what sort of Australia do you want? I mean, Daisy, where do you want Australia to be? I mean, we have got the opportunity now to reshape, refocus and revisit what Australia is. A week before Anzac Day, I think our values really have got to guide us. A sense of trust has got to return. Water, power, all those things are important from my point of view. But what's your take on the sort of Australia? What sort of Australia we want?
I think we want to be free again, Gary, and I think, you know, we all want things to go back to the proverbial normal, but the thing is, things are never going to be normal again after this. I mean, I was talking to someone the other day who compared it to after 9/11. Of course, there were a whole lot of very strict restrictions put in at airports. You know, you take your shoes off, all the stuff we see today, and all of that was hailed as, oh, it'll only be temporary, you know, just until we're sure. But no, that's still going, because there's always going to be the threat of another terrorist attack. And yeah, sure, some of these restrictions will be pared back and businesses will open, but there will be some restrictions that stay, some changes we make that we will adhere to, because who knows when there could be another pandemic. But really, I want people to have their jobs back. I want people to be working. I want people to be thriving. I want to be able to go down the street for a walk in the park with my fiance. I want to be able to travel to Sydney to see my parents who I miss desperately. I want this to kick through. I want to be able to push through the next 4 weeks and go back to as normal a world as we possibly can, as quickly as we can.
Absolutely.
I mean, Bronwyn, the point is, can we get there in 4 weeks and the sort of Australia we want? I love that line from Peggy. You know, it's not about getting back to the basics, it's about going forward on the right fundamentals. This is a time for Josh Frydenberg and Scott Morrison to actually shape Australia in that kind of business-led recovery you're talking about.
Well, your Peggy is quite right, and what we need is a free enterprise Australia. We need it where the individual can take their talents and use them to the best of their ability, where you can take your capital and risk it to employ people and make a profit, where we don't have collectivised ideas, where we have individuals respected, where we have a higher moral standard and a higher moral understanding of what belief is, what truth is, what shame is, where we are a society that is utilising our education system to give people opportunities to develop their own thoughts, not to impose a propaganda like climate change, where we see that we should become independent again, able to manufacture things here, but to do that we're not going to put people's wages down. We have to give them cheap electricity, which gave us a competitive advantage and can offset the price, the cost of our higher wages, so that things are still affordable for people. That's the sort of society I want to see, one where we really understand that individualism works in a free enterprise country and acknowledge that all forms of collectivism and socialism will always lead to tears.
And Bernie Finn, the sense of trust. I mean, I still think that kind of, how can people trust governments when governments don't seem to trust the people? They over-legislate, they over-regulate, they tax us too much. They want to control us too much, governments.
Well, I've got to say to you, Gary, I think trusting governments is a very, very dangerous thing. I think that a healthy scepticism toward any government and every government is a very good thing in society, and it's something that I think has made Australia the great nation that it is. And if I can pinch a slogan, and hopefully I won't cross any trademarks here, I'd like to see a government come in to make Australia great again. You know, we've got the resources, we've got the technology, we've got the wherewithal to do whatever we want in this world. But we have been held back by people who say that, you know, we've got to worry about this or we've got to worry about that. I say that Australia should be allowed to go ahead and do, and Australians should be allowed to go ahead and do what we do best. And we can be one of the strongest and most wonderful nations on this earth. And I tell you what, one last thing, Gary, before your viewers, our viewers, go to bed tonight, can I suggest that they get down on their knees and they give thanks to God that we have Scott Morrison in the Lodge and not Bill Shorten. Because if Bill Shorten was in the Lodge now, if he was Prime Minister now, we would be so beholden to China that it would be a lost cause for us ever to recover. So give thanks to God tonight before you go to bed for Scott Morrison, because he will lead us, hopefully, well, not hopefully, he will lead us, I believe, to much, much better times, and certainly a lot sooner than we would expect.
Look, he hasn't got it 100% right. I'm giving him a good 60 to 70%. Scott will think, oh, Gary, you're up yourself even giving me a mark. But I'm saying I think there are aspects of where things could be better, and it is around this sense of trust. He's made a few missteps, but he's essentially got this right. And I think your point, Bernie, is fair, that if the other bloke had been there, it would have been a mess.